Folks, if it took me going to prison, remember the reason I chose Danbury, I asked for Danbury for a very specific reason. Pena, if for contempt, held in contempt, was Rig Lardner Jr.
So that didn't necessarily go how Steve Bannon was probably hoping that it would. His little press conference outside of the place he chose, according to him, that's FCI Danbury. So that's the prison that he's going to be staying in that he totally wanted to go to. He didn't want to go to one of those fancy elite ones that his legal team was desperately pushing for him to go to. He felt otherwise. He wanted to be a man of the people. But anyway, he says that he chose there and he's happy to serve his time, but sources behind the scenes and off the record are saying that's not necessarily true. So one unnamed source spoke to the Daily Beast and said that he is, quote, quite concerned about the fellow inmates he'll encounter throughout his 4-month federal prison sentence at Danbury. So Bannon, who's, I love this inclusion, Federal Bureau of Prisons inmate numbers 05635-509. Just put that on his Wikipedia page.
05635-509, 056535509.
You're ridiculous.
I messed it up.
Anyway, says he'll probably have a tougher time than fellow Trump advisor Peter Navarro, who is at a federal prison camp in Florida, one of the glitzy, nice ones that's nicer than any of the houses or apartments anyone watching this lives in, unfortunately. By the way, Peter Navarro is going to pop up in the story again for a different reason in a second. But here, Bannon in Danbury will be on a more rigid day-to-day schedule that has less freedom of movement, stricter check-ins, and will be surrounded by more dangerous criminals. There's apparently about 800 prisoners that include sex offenders and violent criminals. And he says he has no regrets, that he's not worried. I will say, I don't want anything to happen to him. I don't want prisons to be the sort of place that someone has to be worried about their safety. And hey, maybe Republicans, we could put enough funding into them that people won't have to be worried that they'll be raped or murdered when they go to prison. I know that you've never cared about that before, but maybe with it being your guy, there's a narrow window where you'll care. I don't want Steve Bannon to be raped or murdered or beaten or anything. Maybe we could come together to stop that from happening and extend to every American that which you would love to give to people like Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon. That's my thought. As of right now, he says, I'm serving my country right now as a political prisoner, saying that he will not allow this place to suppress his voice. He chose to defy the subpoena. He knew that he could potentially get in trouble. He chose to do that to look tough, just like he's trying to look now. This is all a front. He effed around and now he's finding out and he's still fronting to us. But what do you think, Francesca?
Yes, sadly, I wish I could be happy about Steve Bannon going to prison, but I can't feel anything after this long. Just like we've still lost, even though Bannon's gone to prison. Just like, because everything Bannon wanted, the dismantling of the administrative state, immunity for presidents, and now, overturning of certain convictions of Jan 6 rioters. That's all happened because of the extremist takeover of the White House and then the Supreme Court. Bannon's got his wish. And he didn't testify because, of course, he knows so much about what went down on Jan 6. That's why Peter Navarro didn't testify. This is all related to Jan 6. And look, by official means, supposedly, they're all getting off anyway. So this is our last lick of justice a little bit. But again, it's also very funny that I'm sure people are like, oh, it's political prosecution. Steve Bannon did this to himself. He could just testify like others have as well. But he'll be out soon enough and he will have his liver spots will actually become like a tattoo, and I'll make that be like the cool thing. So like everyone gets like a tattoo of a liver spot.
I think in terms
he'll be back in the White House soon enough, I'm sure.
In terms of wanting to look tough, he's just hoping that the liver spots will be like, they'll look like tears. So people will imagine he's tough and he's taken out a few rivals.
Oh, I think his like impenetrable disgustingness is his biggest defense in prison. Like nobody wants to make Bannon their bitch. They're like, you can have him. No thanks.
I hope for his sake he is impenetrable. Again, I don't want anything bad to happen to anybody in prison. Can I be clear about that? Even if it's Trump, I don't actually want that. Again, I'm consistent. I know that's not a universal value or anything. But anyway, while he's in there, his show will go on. So the war room will continue. It's being like live broadcast outside of the prison. Just bear in mind, he's going to prison for this. Remember when he stole donations that were supposed to go to the wall? All these people are like cheering for him, like, yeah, steal more of my money to buy yourself a boat and stuff. But anyway, he can't operate the podcast behind bars, apparently. But he can, quote, opine on the day's news via War Room or other outlets. So he can't operate the podcast, but he can be on the podcast? Those seem very similar. There's gonna be about 20 different co-hosts that'll be taking over for him. People like Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Lauren Boebert, who have nothing else apparently to do over the next 4 months. They're gonna be hosting, it's not just them though. Apparently, Peter Navarro will also do it. The candidate who took a map of water fountains and said that it was a map of crime, he'll be hosting. They have QAnon conspiracy theorists and basically just a bunch of grotesque individuals will be doing it. And remember, he is going to be released from prison a few days before the election. So if somehow Trump loses against all odds and they need to start to gear up for the second coup, he'll be able to be in those meetings, which is nice for him. Any other thoughts?
No.
By the way, he's continued talking about persecuting his political opponents. The thing that he and every Republican says is utterly unacceptable. He is fantasizing about it and will do so for the next 4 months while he's in prison. When you click the join button and become a tier 2 member, you get access to all of our weekly top 10 lists. What are you waiting for?